Now, 99% of amateur golfers do this completely wrong, and that is turning through the golf ball. How amateurs try to turn absolutely ruins their chance for consistency, because this 1% turn from the best players in the world we're seeing here is a little bit counterintuitive on how we get there. It's not straightforward. But once we get there and apply this, as you can see here from the before and after of one of my students, it is absolutely game-changing in the ability to be able to turn. So let's get straight into it. So to understand the 1% turn, how the best players in the world do it, and how I get my students with those huge transformations as we saw, we've got to first understand what amateur golfers are doing wrong. So first and foremost, with my student, we just saw at the beginning of the video, the big jump stall, then going into, of course, the lovely rotation. So what my student was doing wrong, which is what so many of you out there do, is as you're coming into the golf ball, you're using far too much right side. So with my student, when he used too much right side, that extended his pelvis forward. Now, of course, like myself, right-handed golfer, it's very instinctual to use that right side. And when golfers try to do that, it's via pushing their hip forward. Because of course, when you're doing a practice swing sense, you can see, yes, it does open up and it does turn you. But when we have a golf ball in the way, what's going to happen instead? It's just going to extend the pelvis forward and have this nasty early extension, which is why we saw my student have this big jump up movement. So that's where just getting that turn through the golf ball using your dominant side is completely disastrous. So what we did with the student, we ultimately got him to employ more left side extension going through the golf ball, and we did it via a specific way from doing something earlier in the golf swing as well. So what we see with the best players in the world, as they're moving through, you'll see their left leg start to straighten. You won't necessarily see all too many of them straighten their right leg through the golf ball. Maybe like Rory McIlroy with driver, have a little bit of that. But if they're moving with an iron, you will see most just have that left leg straighten up as they're going through the golf ball. Now, when you do that, that gets the left hip continuing to move back and back and back. So that left leg straightening really gets you to turn through the golf ball. Again, look at my student here. Look how straight his left leg is going through that golf ball. It is very, very straight. So getting that movement pattern will get you turning through the golf ball. So how we go about getting there though is not via just straightening the left leg. It's actually doing a specific movement of the pelvis. And that specific movement is what we do when we start the downswing and going throughout the downswing, and that is called gaining more left hip depth. So as we're starting that downswing, we want to get the left hip move backwards. So this is something, if you watch a lot of my channel, I talk a lot about, because it's super, super important. Because if we get that left hip continually moving back, so back and back and back and back and back and back, as I start getting into kind of where delivery position is here, shaft parallel to the ground into the ball, you're going to see the more I push that left hip back, the more my left leg straightens and goes into extension. Because so many golfers who try to get that left side extension, they will, of course, just straighten up that left leg, but then they could run the risk of just standing up through the golf ball again. But then if we get ourselves from that start of that downswing, I'm going to show you a great drill for this, to get that left hip going back and back and back and back and back and back and back. You're going to see there, it just gets me this brilliant rotation, and it's going to get me through the shot also, which controls this club face nicely and gives you that little bit more power. So left side going back all the way through, runs us through some left side extension, keeps the right side at bay. Nothing is about the right side of the body with this. Let me show you a drill after this shot of pushing this left side back all the way through that downswing. Now, here is the drill I did a ton with any student who really suffers with this, and especially the one we've seen from this video. And all we need is a wedge. So I've just got my 50-degree gap wedge there. Something with a little bit of loft on it is what we need. So what we do, we put it underneath our right heel, just like so. And then we move the shaft to where it's just behind our left leg. So now what our goal is to, one, keep this club underneath the heel until after impact, because this will prevent any early movement of the right side, because you're going to see the club's going to drop, and which is going to slow down any kind of excessive extension going through the golf ball, because if I do, I'm going to go onto my toes, that right heel is going to lift up, and of course we're going to then drop that underneath our foot. So that's one portion of this drill. The next part of it is getting your left leg to hit the shaft, which is behind your left calf, ultimately as soon as you can, which would roughly happen at around an impact area. And you're going to see here, when I do so, look at how my left leg goes into a lovely bit of extension. So if we go and do that drill, have that club drop underneath our foot after impact and hitting the shaft behind our left leg with our left calf, as soon as we can, even if we don't quite hit it, that's fine, but we're getting that intent in there, then we're going to have some lovely good turn through the golf ball. So one thing to really be noteful of here, guys. So make sure that when you're doing it nice and smooth when you start off with. So what I'm doing here, demonstrating shots to make sure I get the movement pattern in there. So we're never going to be able to do the movement full speed straight away. It's just one of the big cardinal sins of practice. So many of you are trying to do big full speed swings immediately. You can't do that. You've got to do it slow first to let yourself learn how to do it. But also with this drill and how we perform it. Yes, we want to keep the club underneath our heel, but we don't want to hang the weight back to do so. If we are keeping that right side at bay, which this will be doing, we're still getting our normal weight shift, because when we get our weight into that left side and get that left side going back, the pressure is going into the heel. So we'd actually be unweighting this trail foot, so the right foot a little bit. So we don't want to keep this underneath the heel via hanging back. We still want to keep it underneath the heel just via good body movement. So I'd recommend a ton of you just do practice swings to start off with. Just doing that first movement in the downswing and the left hip to go back, hit the club behind your leg, but keep the club underneath your right foot without any pressure being in there. So a real good one to do, and you could turn all the way through. Just get that sensation, as we don't want to sacrifice our turn through the golf ball or sacrifice our weight shift for turn going through the golf ball. Because if we do so, the club is actually just going to fly out. If we don't have any weight shift and pressure shift to the lead side in the downswing, and let's say we just turn, see how the club just flies out in front. So absolutely, this drill is absolutely awesome. Do it nice slow. Did this so much with my student. Make sure you're performing it as correctly as you can. So even there, I didn't quite hit it with my left leg, but I got pretty close. So absolutely awesome one to go and do. And once we've done a ton of these, then it's going to give you a very good distinct feeling of how to turn properly without it. That's going to get the left hip moving back, get you through some left side extension. Turning through the golf ball like the 1% golfers is all about left side extension and left hip depth. Moving more back with that left hip in the downswing. But then if you're still struggling to get that feel from there, something that you could even do before you even do the club drill is just a simple one where you get to shaft parallel to the ground in the downswing in an ideal position, club head behind the hands, hips a little bit open, and repeat this position a good few times and make sure your left leg is straightening. So this is called a pump drill, and this is just going to give you that feeling. So as soon as I'm getting into this shaft parallel to the ground position here, you can see my hips are rotating, which is all via my left hip going back, left leg straightening. Perform a couple of those just to give you the feeling, nice and soft ones. On the third pump, swing through, and that's just going to give you the feeling of that left leg straightening up. I just didn't fancy picking that one up the TrackMan that time, but absolutely, it's a great one to get that feeling if we are struggling, because we're isolating that move going through the golf ball. So just an additional little thing here, if you're really struggling to get that feel, and then you can absolutely go about and do your drill straight afterwards. I think the shot wasn't a full enough shot for it to pick it up there. So absolutely, guys, if you enjoyed this video, click that like button if you want more golf instruction. Just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.